Hi, when I am on the streets of LinkedIn, sometimes I run across other executive assistants and they say things that I can so much relate to. One of the things I can relate to is this crazy idea that HR has of onboarding. I feel like what we need to do as assistants is actually teach HR what we do so that when they're planning our onboarding period, they actually understand what happens and then maybe give us some leeway. And I also believe, I still really strongly believe this, that performance should not, like an EA should really not be judged on her performance in the first year because sometimes the adjustment period can be crazy. I'm not saying this because I feel like I cannot perform in the first year. I'm just saying this because in the first year we are not usually at our best. So I saw this story on LinkedIn, Pipes and Pipelines, and it was such an interesting story about this awesome assistant who found herself way deep in. And then I told her that we need to have a talk about it, and we did have a talk about it, and here we go. So enjoy the listening and have fun. Mikhaela is based in London, and we will be doing the interview today. Okay. So, hi.
Hi, Mercy.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm here in rainy and very dark London. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Kent, actually, not quite London, but yes, I'm great otherwise. How are you?
I'm fine. So, fun thing, I have a cousin who lives in Kent,
Okay.
and we came to visit her oh no, was it last year or no, 2 years ago? And oh my God, it is such a beautiful place.
Right? It's
Yes, it is
gorgeous.
really, really nice. I've never been. I had never been. I always, when I come to the
Yes,
UK, I would go to London, but I'd never been to Kent, and she always
yes.
used to come to London to see me. But wow, it's really lovely.
It's a gorgeous part of the UK, yes. I
Yeah.
feel very fortunate living here every day.
So tell us a bit about yourself. So where are you from?
So I'm originally from Romania.
Yeah.
Uh, I've been adopted as a UK citizen for the last few years, so I've
Mm.
got double citizenship now. But I've been calling the UK my home for the past 15 years. And it's the place where I've grown the most and I've fully come into myself, if I can say this. Yeah, I've been here, like I said, for 15 years. Now I work in London as
Mhm.
the executive assistant to the president of a asset management company.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Okay, so you and I were talking offline about
yes,
just how different being not from where working in a place where it's your new home, not your original home is. And we both come from places which are quite traditional, and we've ended up working in cities which are quite cosmopolitan and in environments that are quite open. And do you feel like we have an advantage because of this, or do you feel like it makes us work extra hard to catch up?
that's a very interesting question, and it's actually something that I've both struggled with for
Hmm.
a long time, but I've also learned to embrace in the last few years. Actually, more the last couple of years than the last few.
Yeah.
So I think, like you say, I come from Romania, which is mostly, a pretty traditional country in the way things are. I grew up in a very traditional manner. I was also raised up to be, the good daughter, the good sister, to say yes all the time, to help everyone, which is obviously a natural path into being an executive assistant because that's part of my strength.
Hmm.
But also, it also meant that I developed this thing of being not always voicing what I thought, um, you know, or what my opinions were, or not being very confident, because I would always wait for outside guidance because that's what happens in this type of, traditional culture.
Yes.
cultures, you are told how you're going to be and you just be it. And
Mhm.
then London was just this extraordinarily, I don't know, vibrant place. And it's where the first time I felt like myself. I'll be very honest. I didn't know who I was truly before I came to London. And the reason that happened is because nobody really cares in London. Nobody cares who you are, how you dress, um, where you're from, what your accent is. Nobody cares because there's so many people from so many parts of the world that they tend to look at you as an individual. This unique creature that is you, and they encourage that. They want to know, who are you? What do you have to bring to the table? What's
Yeah,
different about you?
exactly.
Have you felt that in Geneva as
I
well?
do. I totally do. I can relate 100% to what you're saying. My experience in Geneva, and I always tell people this, I wouldn't be an executive assistant if I was not in Geneva. If I was in Kenya, I would be doing something else and I would probably be miserable at it.
Oh no.
I don't think this is not something that I would not be working as an EA if I was in Kenya for two reasons. One, growing up, I don't think an EA was what my parents would have envisioned for me. They probably envisioned me being the executive, not the assistant. And so I would have felt pressure to put up with to go that way.
Yeah,
But then being far away, I was actually able to make decisions by myself because it was just me.
yeah,
So I was able to try out different careers and to look at what fits. And so there was very little society expectation. Um, and then who knows me in Geneva? I can reinvent myself a million times.
yes, Mercy, that's
I
exactly
can
it.
reinvent myself a million times
Yes.
and it will just be okay because everybody, I think it's the same. Geneva is probably a smaller population, but it's the same
Mhm.
atmosphere. There are quite a lot of expatriates and foreigners who have moved to Geneva, and many of them, they don't even work in the same career that they were working in the country they came from.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, you can be anybody you want to be when you're far from where you grew up. So I think that, well, I miss the family support and I miss sometimes just running home and
Yeah.
getting my mom,
But you
dumping the
don't miss
kids
the
on my mom.
pressure. You
But I
don't
don't
miss
miss
the
the pressure.
pressure.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. I'm with you 100%.
Okay, so let's get back to talking about you. So I contacted you to have
Yes.
this interview because of an article that you wrote,
Yeah.
and it was about pipes and pipelines.
It was.
Pipelines
It
versus
was.
pipes. So, do you want to repeat that story for
Yes.
somebody
Yes.
who has no idea
So,
what I'm talking about?
yeah, 100%. Yes. Let's give people some context.
Yeah.
Um, so that is indeed a funny story. Well, it's funny now because it really wasn't funny then. But it's also one of the most humbling experiences I've had as a new EA. So I think it was my second or third week as an EA in private equity, an industry I knew nothing about. And I had absolutely no financial services background or anything like that. But I was keen to learn. And my executive just asked me to check the pipeline before the 2 p.m. meeting and flag if anything's changed, right?
Mhm.
Perfectly reasonable request.
Exactly.
And I smiled and nodded, as we do. Yes, of course, leave it with me.
Mhm.
And then I went into the meeting room and started looking at the pipes, the actual pipes. I kid you not. I was trying to figure out what on earth had happened with the plumbing the previous week and what update could I provide my executive on the plumbing.
Yeah.
I couldn't see anything wrong. I couldn't even see the bloody pipes. Um, excuse my French. And then I
We're
even
all
went
grown-ups here.
I even went downstairs to reception to ask them to send a technician to check the plumbing because my executive needs an update, right? So I came back up and I continued to look around because something didn't feel right. One of my colleagues saw me looking a bit lost and she asked me what had happened. So I told her I'm just checking the pipelines to see the pipelines to see if anything's changed. And she smiled kindly and gently and she said, Mihaela, the pipeline in this context means the sales pipeline, as in the deals in progress. Yeah? I turned beetroot red because that's my go-to,
Mhm.
reaction.
Yeah.
I felt embarrassed, and then I went and got the actual information that, my executive needed. I flagged what had changed, and he got what he had asked for. But the whole thing about this story is that I wasted quite a bit of time,
Hmm.
both feeling confused and trying to figure out something that really wasn't the what I was supposed to figure out, and also wasting other people's time because I had asked a technician to come and check the plumbing,
Yeah.
and all because I was too afraid to ask a question.
So there are quite a few things there. The first thing is, I mean, I think I'm very sure every EA has one of those embarrassing stories about something that was left out. And you have said quite a bit about what you could have done. But you know what? When I was reading that story, I was so mad at your HR, who I don't know, but I was so mad at them because when I was reading it, it kept reminding me of my own experience where I was onboarded somewhere. I had never worked in an NGO, and all of a sudden they're talking about per diems, which I couldn't even spell, so I couldn't even Google it. And I'm being told, okay, find out what the per diem for South Africa is. I have no idea what that is. So at least I had a friend that I could ask. So, phone a
Yes,
friend. So
yes.
I phoned a friend and I asked. But my anger was more the onboarding because mostly what happens in companies is when they onboard anybody, they onboard and then they say, if you have any questions, just ask Michaela. She knows everything. But then when there's a new Michaela, who is onboarding her?
Yes, you see, I agree with you. I think there's a huge gap here.
Yeah,
That there's what a new EA would naturally, logically
yeah.
expect. You'd expect that when you start a new role, someone is there to guide you, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
To explain to you how things work, who's who, who to go to for extra information, where to go to, where is everything saved, what's the single source of truth, right? That's the
Yeah,
expectation. And they're meant to introduce you to key people, so on and so forth.
yeah,
The reality is that you're generally just left to figure it out all
yeah.
by yourself. There's rarely any kind of structured guidance. You just expected to hit the ground running, which is a phrase I absolutely hate, but
Me
it's
too.
used so often, and almost every other job description that I see still uses it.
Hmm.
Hit the ground running just means we're a chaotic environment and there's never going to be anyone here to hold your hand or to guide you. That's what it means.
Yeah.
And and that's unfortunate because I don't know someone who's joining, the finance team, the marketing team who goes through something like that. No, they've got proper onboarding.
Yeah. And they're given weeks and
Yes.
months
Yes.
to catch up. And on top of that, they have somebody assisting them in case
Yes.
they have questions.
Yes. And let's be honest, we figure it out because
We
that's what
do.
we do. That's what
Yes.
we do. We always figure it out. We're resourceful, we ask around, we take notes, we
Yeah.
observe, we see patterns, we piece everything together. But
Mm.
but it's a lot harder and a lot slower than it needs to be. And you spend those first few weeks, sometimes even months,
Yeah.
you know, feeling like you're constantly playing catch up, maybe
Mm-hmm.
feeling like you're no longer competent all of a sudden because you don't have all the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And if you happen to be the only EA in a company or a new EA in a company that's never had an EA before,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a messy place to be. It really is.
I once told someone in HR that I don't believe that EAs or any assistants for that matter or coordinators should be done for a performance evaluation, positive or negative. Well, they should be given feedback,
Yeah,
but not an official performance evaluation in their first year on the job because the first year on the job, they don't know anything. And as much as sometimes the handover from the previous year might have been awesome, they might have put everything together, but
yeah,
my working style and your working style are not the
they're
same.
different. Yeah,
So when I put things together, I'm putting them the way I used to do them.
yeah.
And then you come in and that's not how you work.
Hmm.
So it is gibberish to you. You
Yeah,
have the basic things of where to find what in the
yeah,
system, but how to do them, you have to figure out your own way of doing it.
yeah, yeah. You're 100%. That's exactly it. And I think going back to your point that
Yeah.
there's a gap between
Hmm.
what we expect and what actually happens. I think the way I see this, and I've told myself this a number of times, I think the gap is between expecting to be set up for success
Yeah.
and realizing that you're actually expected to create your own success from scratch.
Yeah.
You know, there's you just figure it out.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it.
I think that's the amazing part of it. Now, you hate this the phrase hit the ground
Hit the ground
running.
running. Yes.
Me, the one that I cannot stand when I see it in job descriptions is and all other tasks as required.
Oh God, let's not go there. That's a heavy
Because
one. That's
I always say this is such a loaded sentence. Why do they even put it? First of all, we know it's going to happen. So we are coming fully know. But the fact that you have actually put it in writing
yeah.
just makes me realize that you really, oh, you are going to be breaking us. That
I
is how
think
I feel when every time I see that statement in a job
yeah,
description.
you've got a point, and that actually happens quite a bit. There's a lot of EAs that go through severe burnout, and because of the anything else that is,
Yeah.
expected. But I think the problem still is, I don't know why we still have this issue. I think it's twofold. Partly
Hmm.
is due to the people in the profession itself, and partly is due to the system. And I think what I'm trying to get to here is that the role is still very, very misunderstood. It's
Yes.
very, very misunderstood. Every single level of this role is all an assistant.
Hmm.
Yeah. But at the same time, we also have, I don't know how many hundreds of different types of titles all over the world
Yes.
for someone in the profession, just to
Hmm.
confuse things even more.
Yeah.
And so if you ask someone who's never had an assistant or someone who works in accounts in a company, what does the executive assistant do? Do you think they know? They'll say, oh, she makes coffees and sometimes she books travel.
And she does the calendar.
Yes, she does the calendar.
Yes, that's it. And
Yes.
you're looking at them. And by the way, there was a day somebody told me, yeah, but as an assistant, don't you just book calendars and meetings and things like I was like, do you know if in a day I do that for 15 minutes? First of all, it will be a very chaotic 15 minutes because finding time for a busy executive is not as easy as people think. Sometimes there's a lot of negotiations that
Yes.
happen in the process. And then the second thing is just you cannot say just when you are talking about somebody's job because
Yes.
it already shows me you're undervalued. Whatever else I'm going to tell you, you will not take it seriously because you think I'm less than already. So
Yeah.
you've already decided that,
That I'm just.
yes,
You've boxed me in.
you've
Yes.
boxed me in and decided what I'm doing is very minute. So let's not even get into another whole conversation about this.
And to your point about I'm just doing calendars.
Hmm.
I mean, that's okay. If there are, I know EAs that do heavy calendaring,
Yeah.
but I don't think anyone who's not an EA truly understands the kind of strategic thinking that is necessary to properly manage an executive's calendar. You don't
Hmm.
just put things wherever there's a free slot, and sometimes there's no free slot, but you still need to fit in meetings, right?
Yes.
You need to think about it. You need
And
to
sometimes they go to
understand.
the toilet and come back, they have
Yeah,
already promised people
there we go. You need
meetings.
to, you need to understand why things happen, what's a priority in the company at any given moment. What does your executive need? Where is he in his journey? You need to understand all of that in order to do calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. It is true that I don't think people actually appreciate what goes into the
Yeah.
role. And there's a question that maybe I need to ask follow up to your
Mm,
story about the pipelines. The question is, it took you a while to actually, well, you went and asked there is for
yeah.
but why did you not just ask your executive? Why did you not feel safe enough to ask your executive what was like, wrong with the pipes?
Why indeed? Yes,
Yeah,
yes, 100%. That is the question, isn't it?
yeah,
Why do we not feel comfortable, especially when we're just starting in this profession? And I hear that so often. Why do we not feel comfortable to ask the question? I think I think there's a few things going on here. So, one is what we are just talking about is part of how the role is perceived. Yeah?
yeah.
You're supposed to be the person who just knows,
Mm-hmm.
right? Who anticipates, who has everything sorted before anyone even thinks about.
Yeah.
So, admitting that you don't know something makes you feel like you're failing at the fundamental part of the role, right?
Yes, yes.
But nobody can anticipate what they've never encountered before.
Mm-hmm.
You can't. Then
Which is
I think,
why performance evaluation in the first year is, to me,
yes,
honestly, I don't understand how this is not a policy, but
yes.
uh-huh.
Then I think also that applies to me. I don't necessarily know whether that applies to most other people, but in my case, there was also this tendency to massively overestimate how much
Mhm.
everyone else knows. You
Ah,
think, surely someone already asked this.
yeah.
Surely I'm not the only one who's confused. If this was unclear to everyone else, someone would have already asked the question. So you stay quiet. You
Hmm.
stay quiet. And then later, you find out that there were three other people that didn't know a particular thing, and you wish you would have said something, you know?
And when it comes to that one of somebody else would have, I think it also comes from the fact that in most places, the executive assistants, the admin assistants, they're the lowest ranked person in the room.
Yes.
So you're sitting
Yes.
there with all these
Yes.
people who have a way higher pay scale than you. So you think any idea you have, you think it's a damn idea or it can't work because surely one of these overpaid people would have thought about it before me. So it's already just how we even think about our role by
Yes.
ourselves. We are
It's
thinking somebody else, surely, I mean,
yeah.
these people have PhDs. They would know this.
And to your point, I think it's related to that feeling we get sometimes when we're too close to power.
Yes.
You're in a room, like you just said, with senior people who have PhDs, who have I don't know how many letters after their name, and you feel
Mhm.
intimidated, because that proximity to power makes you feel like you should just know things, and if you don't, then you're stupid or
Mhm.
somehow, less than. But I think the whole point of you being in that room is that you should be asking questions. That's the value you bring. It's a different perspective, you
Yeah.
know? It's a different perspective that you bring. Forget the letters, forget everything that's happening there. If there's a question to be asked, ask it, you know?
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I tell, because I do a lot of mentoring for EA,
Yes.
and one of the things that I tell the EAs is, you know what? They hired you knowing that they have more qualifications than you. And if that executive could manage his own calendar, he wouldn't hire you. So there's something that you can do that he cannot do or she cannot do. So sometimes walk into it with that one expertise that you have. Your expertise is to make sure that the person comes from London to New York and is able to attend the meeting and find a good hotel without having jet lag. That is your expertise. Go for it, sit there and own it.
Yes.
And once you've done that, when you go in with that mentality of the one thing that you're the best at, it kind of helps with neutralizing the fact that, well, they probably know how to create a strategy that will bring tens of millions. But if I don't get you from London to New York, you're not going to be able to bring the tens of millions.
Yes. Yes, like that's brilliant. That is exactly what we need more of. We need to
Yeah.
understand that, that point of, look, you've got one thing, even if it's the one thing, but that
Yeah.
one thing means that you are there for a reason. Own
Hmm.
that reason. Stand in your power, yeah, proudly. And
Yeah.
then it will be easier to see everyone else as equals.
Okay.
Because that is the problem. We see others so much higher than us, and this is not about not showing people respect. Of course, you should respect everyone,
Yeah,
but at the same time, you shouldn't feel less than. You shouldn't, because we're all equals. We're all there to do a job.
exactly. So I always ask every assistant this
Yes.
because it seems like all of us have superpowers. Sometimes we find them out at the beginning, sometimes we find them out like me by asking our colleagues,
Yes.
what is your superpower?
Oh God. Look, this is a great question. It's a brilliant question, and and I've been thinking about this for this whole year. I did a bit of mentoring for the first time at the beginning of the year. Um, and I was faced with this exact question, and I realized I didn't have an answer to it. I just didn't.
Mhm.
I didn't. Because I've been doing this role for quite a few years now, for over a decade. And then there's so many things that come naturally to you that you just say, well, I just do it. It comes naturally to me. And you don't think that certain things that you do other people can't do. So that's your strength, that's your power. So anyway, going back to your question,
Mhm.
I think I notice when people are struggling before they say anything, and sometimes before they even realize it themselves. And then I just can't help but try to fix it.
Yeah.
And I see the friction. I see when there's things that make someone's day harder than it needs to be.
Hmm.
The gap between how something works, because it's how it's always worked, and how it could work, you know? And once I see it, I just have to do something about it, and I go and I build a workflow or a system or a simple process, something that just makes things just a bit easier, you know? And I think the reality of it is that, yes, I like efficient systems. I think many of us do. But it's
Yes.
not about the system, you know? You
Mhm.
you care so much that you notice when someone is struggling. So it's really about the care that is embedded in that system,
Yeah.
you know? It's the people, the person that you've built something for at the core of it.
Hmm.
So you care enough to build something that makes someone else's life just a
Easier.
tiny bit
Mm.
easier.
That
And
is
that to me,
awesome.
that's success. That is success.
I don't know. Have you ever spoken to Elizabeth or
I haven't spoken to her, but
yeah,
we meet in different comments on
con
LinkedIn, and also we're on the Strategic PA book club, so we communicate there every now and
aha.
then as well. Yes.
Now you really should talk to her because she sounds just like you. I met her recently at a conference and yeah, she
Yeah,
is
in
really
Vienna, right?
awesome. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think what you've said is exactly what she told me inspired her to make the ROI calculator.
Okay.
Because for her, it was just when you're doing something at some point, you need to see the value of it. And she felt like some assistants do not even see their value. They don't even see they can't even negotiate good salaries because they can't even quantify what they
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And if it was going to make it easier for them to be able to just look at this, put their work in an app And then
Yeah.
the app calculates for them and tells them, this is your value. It made her really happy just doing that because,
Yeah.
and I believe that's a great superpower to have, honestly. Empathy is great. Wanting to make things easy for others makes somebody a really good assistant because honestly, that's
That's at the core of it.
that's at the core of it. If you do not like your executive, honestly, as an EA, well, you can still do the job because maybe you need the money, but it is
It's
going
not
to
the
be
same.
10 times as hard. Sometimes when you have an executive that you actually like,
Yeah.
you want to make their life easy. So you go above and beyond and it's easy. That's also another reason why people burn out because sometimes you're going way too above and beyond.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Yes. Yeah. To your point, what you said about Elizabeth ROI, I can't wait for her to release that. I think it's such a brilliant tool.
Yeah.
And it's yes, it's needed because I think one of the main problems we have in this profession, generally speaking, is that we, as a profession, some of us are better at it than others, but as a profession, we don't know how to talk about our work in terms of the impact it has. We talk about it in terms of tasks, but
Yes.
tasks don't mean anything. What really means something is what that task enabled, the impact it had for your executive, for the company's bottom line, for your team when that massive deal was signed. All of that, it's about impact, but we don't know. We don't know how to speak about it.
Yeah, and when we speak about it, we don't say the exact words of what we did. We say
Yes,
supported in,
yes, yes. And we don't own our
and we
impact.
don't
We
own
don't own
exactly.
it.
We don't, that's what I was looking for. We don't own our
Yeah.
part in it. We just say we supported. Yeah, well, how concretely? Give me the words for it.
Exactly, exactly. So we need to practice that like there is no tomorrow because things are changing.
Yeah,
Yeah. AI is here and it's here to stay.
yeah,
And we really need to stop treating ourselves as just support, as just anything. We need to do better and step into our power,
mhm,
and own, own our voice, own
yeah,
our impact, own the roles we actually play, being the backbones of these organizations that, are all over the world.
yeah, yeah.
You know, tell me about one single organization that is successful without a very good administrative team
Hmm.
that holds everything together.
I
I
don't
don't think
even
there
think
is
it's
one.
possible. Yeah.
Exactly.
Uh,
So
okay.
we need to own that.
We do, we do. So this was awesome. This was great. We can have another one another soon. But for today, that's it. And this is awesome. What I would just like to say is there any closing words you would like to say to specifically young EAs who are new to the profession?
Yes. Yes, and I want to tell them something that I wish someone had told me in those first years. Uh, you have permission to ask questions.
Mhm.
Give it to yourself. Don't wait for anyone else to sign a permission slip. Give it to yourself every single day. Give yourself permission to ask the questions and then own your work, own your impact.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my advice.
I agree totally with you because many times people allow themselves to be walked all over and they don't, if you don't start it from the beginning, like I said in the quote of the interview we were talking about before, if you don't know your value, nobody else is going to bother to tell you your value. They will find you where you are and keep you there. And I think that goes across the board for any profession, but especially for a profession like ours, where we are, as we said, you are in any room, there are all these people who seem you're the lowest in the
Yeah,
hierarchy every single time you're in that room. And yet you are the one person who's actually holding everything together. You're the one person who knows everything that's going on in there. So it's just knowing your power and owning it and feeling like the way you should.
Yeah, I
Okay.
couldn't have said it better myself. Yes.
Uh,